Breaking news tonight, devastated sisters hear grisly facts in the missing Nikki Cheng case, now upgraded to murder. But where's the body? Good evening, I'm Nancy Grace. This is Crime Stories. I want to thank you for being with us. Mom's Chevy is found abandoned on a remote country road. Nikki's case is a homicide investigation.
There were several assaults on Nikki.
A brutal assault on Nikki prior to her disappearing, prior to her Chevy being found abandoned on a remote country road.
She thought she was going to die.
Where is Nikki? A brutal assault at the hands of this guy.
I'm John McCain. I'm the husband of Nikki McCain. First of all, I would like to thank the Sheriff's Office, FBI, for getting involved. Any efforts that might help bring my wife home safely. We miss you.
He's kind of fumbling around. Listen to more of that.
I don't really know what to say. I haven't been in the public eyes, and I haven't done very well with it. I apologize to everyone, especially my children, my wife's family, mine as well. I'm just here in support, so anything that I can do, I want to do that.
You don't know what to say. Your wife, the mother of your children, has disappeared, and you don't know what to say. What a crock of steaming BS. Dubé with me, defense attorney Philip Dubé. Here he is pleading for his wife's return. He's like, I'm sorry, I've got my thumb up my rear end. I don't know what to say.
Well, first of all, it's not as if he had an opportunity to rehearse it. You put the guy in front of a camera as if he's doing a screen test for an Academy Award film. It's ridiculous. The guy was caught off guard. He wasn't told what he was going to be asked. He didn't know what he was going to say. So people often stammer and stutter and have a little word salad. They don't know what, if anything, to say. So to say that implies guilt, here we go again. Yes, there she goes.
The symphony, the rhapsody.
Yeah.
And all of the splendor and glory of Philip Dubé trying to explain away a defendant. In this case, a murder suspect. You know, Dr. Bethany Marshall, try as he might, Philip Dubé cannot explain away why the husband of the missing mom, she's had all these children by him, he beat her to a pulp before and was about to testify against him when she went missing. He stands up and goes, well, I don't know what to say. His wife is missing, possibly dead. His children don't have a mother, and he doesn't know what to say. You know what? When John David disappeared in the middle of a big, huge Babies R Us warehouse, I knew what to say. I screamed, "My baby's missing, lock the doors." I screamed it over and over. It sounded like a siren in my throat. I knew what to say.
Nancy, he's unable to say anything because he has the sheriff, the prosecutor, law enforcement standing next to him. And what I mean by this is when he was alone with Nikki, he was quite comfortable being an abuser. He would sit on her back. He would beat her. He put a towel over her face, poured water on it to the point where she felt she was suffocating and couldn't breathe. She had bruises and lacerations on her face. She was afraid of dying. She allegedly had bruises and lacerations on her face. And yet, when he's in front of law enforcement, he's not the big bully that he is at home. So I see with these types of men who are abusive that they are very powerful when they're alone with a small, fragile woman. But when they come face to face with consequences, they kind of collapse.
Let's watch him implode again. I mean, I could just watch this all night. Watch.
I don't really know what to say. I haven't been in the public eyes, and I haven't done very well with it. I apologize to everyone, especially my children, my wife's family, mine as well. I'm just here in support, so anything that I can do, I want to do that.
Apologizing for what? That's certainly a Freudian slip. Apologizing for what? Did anybody think to ask him that? Now, you heard Dr. Bethany Marshall describing a horrible incident of abuse. This is how it started.
Wednesday night around 8:30, Nikki Saley McCain is in her bedroom combing her hair. Her husband of 13 years, Tyler McCain, arrives home in a strange mood. For no apparent reason, Tyler McCain aggressively jumps on top of Nikki, holding her on the ground, then dragging her around, yelling, "What are you doing?" Nikki says Tyler McCain's eyes are glazed over. Nikki tries calming her husband, but it doesn't work, and he holds her down and begins hitting her in the face. The terror escalates over a 3-hour period, with McCain binding Nikki's wrists and ankles together with tape, putting tape over her mouth so she couldn't speak properly, rolling his wife onto her stomach. Tyler McCain sits on her back, pulling her hair back, forcefully pulling her head back and telling her he's going to kill her.
This is the domestic incident. Why do they even call it domestic incident? It's an aggravated assault, but it doesn't end there.
After 3 hours of Tyler McCain allegedly beating his wife, the mother of his 4 children, hitting her about the face and head, blackening her eyes, pulling out her hair, and taping her mouth shut, he leaves her alone and goes into the kitchen. Getting herself loose from the bindings, Nikki grabs a rope, runs outside, and gets in her car. Tyler McCain chases Nikki out of the house and jumps onto the hood of the car, telling her to stop. Ignoring his demands, Nikki flees to the safety of her sister's home in Redding.
What a psycho! He jumps on her car to stop her from leaving after he's been beating her and terrorizing her and waterboarding her for hours. But this time, Dave Mack, joining us, Crime Stories investigative reporter, this time is different because she reports the violence. She reports the beatings, and they get photos of the beatings.
Nancy, in this particular case, we said she runs to her sister's house in Redding. It's her sister that lovingly says, "We've got to take you to the hospital. We've got to get this documented. You need help, for these injuries." And so while she's at the hospital, she makes the call, and a police officer arrives, and the detective actually has the foresight and the wherewithal to actually record exactly word for word Nikki Saley McCain describing this horrific attack, how long it took. It was a 20-minute long interview with her talking, and it's shocking, Nancy, how she described what she had just endured.
Okay, now what were you saying, Philip Dubé, about how this is not a screen test in Hollywood? I think I know why he couldn't speak at that presser. All this was rushing through his mind, if he has any conscience at all. Or maybe he's like a frog. Have you ever held a frog and looked at it in the face? It just blinks. It's a cold-blooded creature, no emotions. Is that what's happening?
No, he does have an emotionally low IQ. But I don't know why, and I have no actual evidence of this, but he reminds me of a classic meth addict. It's somebody who flies off the handle after a lengthy fix, and when he's trying to chase the dragon and trying to get another fix, he can't get it, so he acts out in a fit of pique and rage. And I have a feeling that this incident, if it's in fact true, was drug-fueled.
Put him up. Dubé, it's amazing how you can do a hairpin turn from "this is no Hollywood screen test" to "he's a meth head." Okay, there's no evidence at all that he's a meth head, but I guess you're digging really deep to explain his behavior at the presser. You know what? Technical legal term, screw his behavior at the presser. Let's get to the preliminary hearing. First of all, why there's a preliminary hearing, it confounds me. It's the state's worst nightmare. Typically, in most jurisdictions, the state can do an information, just write up on a notepad what the charges are going to be, or preferably a grand jury. That takes about 5 minutes. This preliminary hearing requires the state to put up witnesses to prove PC probable cause for the judge to bind the case over or send it to the correct court. For instance, you wouldn't send a murder case to traffic court. It would go to a felony superior court where only felonies are tried. That's what's happening here. So the defense is getting the first swing at the ball by cross-examining the state's witnesses. That's what's happening now. Listen.
A preliminary hearing to determine if Tyler McCain will go on trial for the murder of his wife, Nikki Cheng McCain, has brought many witnesses to the stand, from family and friends to law enforcement and forensic experts. Judge Thomas Bender will determine if there is sufficient evidence for Tyler McCain to be tried for the murder of his wife. If the case against him moves forward, it will be the first no-body murder trial in Shasta County history. As of today, Nikki is still missing and presumed dead.
Well, brace yourself, Shasta County. Other jurisdictions have had plenty of no-body murder cases. So, you know what? Get with it, or you won't be with it much longer, elected district attorney. Joining us now, two very special guests who have been to hell and back seeking justice for their sister, Nikki. With us, Kay Ford and Chloe Saley. They have been enduring excruciating testimony in this preliminary hearing. Sisters, thank you for being with us. I've just got to know off the top, how do you go home and actually fall asleep after hearing this evidence? Kay Ford, how do you decompress after all of this each day?
We've our spouses have been very supportive, and we're also busy with kids' activities. So a lot of times that's been very helpful to refocus our thoughts a little bit. But it is once we're laying down, it's taking all the information in is a lot.
Now joining us, Brian Fitzgibbons, Director Operations, USPA Nationwide Security. Fitzgibbons leads a team of highly specialized investigators who focus and specialize in locating missing people all around the world. And you can find him at uspasecurity.com, former Marine and Iraqi war veteran. Translation, he's seen it all. Fitzgibbons, you know what? Here's a problem. One of the problems with a no-body case, as Dubé has pointed out on many occasions. I've seen this trick done in court, where in the closing argument, the defense attorney will say, "Hey, is that the victim coming in the door right now?" And they wait to see if the jury turns to look. And if they do, the defense will argue, "See, you're not even convinced she's dead, much less who did it." But don't you think by now, Fitzgibbons, she would have been found?
Absolutely, Nancy. And, this has been well over a year that we've been looking for Nikki. And what I'll tell you is, in this preliminary hearing, the DA has brought forth 9 investigators from law enforcement from various disciplines that have methodically laid out the case against Tyler McCain and the forensic case, to prove that there was, in fact, a murder that took place. So these crucial things have happened. On top of that, you have 5 members of McCain's friends and family that have taken the witness stand, and their stories have contradicted statements that they've made to the police. So I think things are going very well for the district attorney here to get that probable cause from the judge.
Reading Police Detective Jeremiah Kessinger says Nikki's sister Chloe Saley texted with Nikki regularly, and there was always a response until May 19th. Family members talked with Nikki on May 18th, but on May 19th, she never answered a text from Chloe. Nikki told Chloe about domestic violence in the relationship, and McCain going so far as to point a gun directly at Nikki and threatening to kill her and her family members.
Prices are out of control. Have you been to the grocery store Many people are relying on credit cards just to get by for essentials. If you see your debt growing every day, you're not alone. Americans owe over $1 trillion. You may have hesitated to call American Financing to avoid losing your low mortgage rate. Well, there is good news. Their Smart Equity Loan lets you tap into your home's equity without touching your current mortgage. It offers a fixed rate and one predictable monthly payment, no upfront or hidden fees, and it only takes 10 minutes to get started. If you need help, call 866-888-0344. Repeat, 866-888-0344, or go online to americanfinancing.net/Nancy to learn more.
Deputy Alicio Brito says he found Nikki's pickup on Highway 36 the night of May 25th. Shockingly, the deputy says there was a strong odor, the smell of death, coming from the covered truck bed. The smell of decomposing flesh coming from inside the truck bed is coupled with a swarm of small flies and gnats. Also in the truck bed, a white sheet with blood stains and dark-colored hairs. There are also smears of dried blood in the truck bed and strands of dark hair found underneath a piece of trim. The blood and hair belonged to Nikki Celia McCain.
During this preliminary hearing, including Grisly testimony, specifically blood testimony, has been excruciating for Nikki's sisters. Straight back out to Chloe and Kay. Chloe, what has been the most difficult moment in the preliminary hearing? I mean, I don't know if you are at all like me, but my first brush with the law, the first time I'd ever been in a courtroom, was at my fiance's murder trial. A lot of it I still can't remember, but the parts I do remember, they changed my life forever. And there's no turning back after what happened in court. What has been the most vivid moment in your mind in the courtroom so far?
There were actually two incidences. One was when the sheriffs, they played a recording of Nikki's voice about what happened that night. That was really hard to hear because it was just hearing her voice, because we weren't able to hear her voice for such a long time. And then also just the evidence about how much blood was in the back of that truck bed, that hit me really hard because I didn't realize how much blood and then was in the back of that truck. And just, you know, when you think of blood, you automatically think a murder and that they're never coming back again.
The amount of blood in the truck, does that indicate to you, Chloe, that that is where she was killed?
I believe that shortly after whatever happened to her, whatever they did to her, I think that she was placed in the back of that truck bed to die.
To Kay Ford, Nikki's sister also, what has been the most disturbing moment during the preliminary hearing for you?
Listening to the evidence technician describe decomposition and the smell and kind of those details, she did such a good job with being so professional and just very scientific with it. But you know, just thinking of our sister in that state was difficult to hear because, you know, at the end of the day, this hearing has been about decomposition of her body potentially. So those details were, you know, just kind of thinking that we're describing our sister. That was pretty grisly for me.
There was also evidence regarding the garage floor. What did you learn, Kay, about the garage floor?
It sounded like a lot of activity happened. Witness testimony about looking like it had been cleaned. Also, the blue star light being used by the evidence technician, indicating that there was blood. They didn't specify if it was animal or human, but as far as I knew, they weren't butchers and they weren't handling animals in the garage. So that to me definitely indicated that it could possibly be a crime scene. And and it's not a place that I remember them cleaning a lot. So to have the garage cleaned is pretty telling for me.
When you refer to they, Kay, who are you talking about?
Well, the witness testimonies so far have indicated the people living there, which would be Tyler and maybe someone who helped him, but so far the cleaning sounds like it had been done by Tyler.
I've got a question to Chloe and Kay. First to you, Chloe. Does he even look at you in the courtroom, Chloe?
No, he doesn't look.
Anyone?
Yeah. What about it, Kay? Does he even meet your gaze?
No, he for the most part has his head down in his hands, and he hardly looks up even at the witnesses. I did notice there was a witness last week that he had his head up more than he had with any other witnesses. And as well as when they were displaying some pictures of his home, he did look up at the projector screen during those pictures. But other than that, no eye contact with us whatsoever.
Yeah, I'm not at all surprised. It's a whole nother thing if you're not beating someone less powerful than you, much smaller, less cunning than you are. When you're actually in court with equals, it's a lot more difficult to be a bully. Now joining us, special guest Jeffrey Gentry, forensic certified bloodstain pattern analyst, senior crime analyst, and death investigator, former toxicology lab analyst, and author of Forensic Science, Applications to Death and Crime Scene Investigations, and specifically author of Bloodstain Pattern Analysis. Jeffrey Gentry, I just want you to hear one more fact about the blood pattern. Listen.
During a check of Nikki's Avalanche, the vehicle is put up on a lift where investigators discover blood pooled on top of the fuel tank. Further inspection reveals there was so much blood, some of it dripped down from the fuel tank. On the passenger side of the truck, they found a plastic grocery bag containing a bottle of Southern Comfort whiskey. Dear
Lord in heaven, that mass quantity of blood, Jeffrey Gentry, can only mean one thing, but any guy on the street knows that. Give me your analysis about what was found in the truck bed and beyond.
These are all bad things, Nancy. So when you're working a no-body homicide case, you always have to consider where the blood is found and then also the quantity of blood that is found, because these are the things that you're going to want to use as evidence to convince the jury that the person is dead, even though there's no body. So blood on bed sheets, that's always a bad thing. You would expect blood to be in bathrooms, kitchens, or bathroom sinks, things where blood might normally be found, but you don't expect large quantities of blood to be saturated into sheets, especially sheets that are tied up in knots. That's one of the ways that we actually transport bodies from crime scenes, is you wrap them up in a sheet, you knot it up, then you put them inside of a body bag. It makes it easier to carry a body. So that is very bad when you're looking at a person being missing and then you're finding blood saturated into bed sheets. And then also the quantity of blood that's being poured out of the truck bed. Again, you shouldn't have blood in the back of a truck bed, and you should absolutely not have blood in sufficient quantities to pour out a truck. And then they touched on also the smell of decomposition. That's a smell that I've, of course, smelled many times. I've investigated thousands of death cases, and it's something that you don't forget. Others are smelling decomposition. Again, that's another piece of evidence to suggest that this person is dead, even though you don't have a body.
Straight out to Dave Mack, Crime Stories investigative reporter. I want to go back to what's happening in the preliminary hearing. Tyler McCain, Nikki's abusive husband, had a major outburst where he stands up, starts screaming and cursing. What happened?
Well, in court, they showed pictures from the first search of the house, of Nikki and Tyler's house. And in that first video shot, you could tell that the house was very messy. There weren't a lot of pictures hanging up. But what he lost it over was the pictures that were shown from the second visit, after Nikki has been reported missing, and the police go back in and are searching the home again. This time, they find that the home is no longer messy. It's been picked up and cleaned. It has been staged with family photos now hanging on the walls. That's where he lost it, Nancy, because they were pointing out that, hey, man, When we came here the first time, right after she was reported missing, none of this was going on. This place was trash. But now, look at it. After she's gone, there's pictures hanging on the walls. So that's why he lost it.
You stated, Chloe, that for a large portion of the hearing, he would sit, or he sits with his head down, looking down. But isn't it true he had a major outburst, yelling and cursing?
Yes, he did. It was when Kay mentioned, it was when it was pictures of his house, and the evidence technician, she had mentioned that how the house had looked different from the first raid versus the second raid, and she just noticed that was unusual because when they went back the second time for the raid, they noticed that the living room was it was all cleaned up. It was very nice and neat and put together, and there were family photos hung up. And she just said she found that kind of unusual. And Tyler, he said a cuss word, and he said that she doesn't understand why he's there.
Okay, I believe his exact words are along the lines of, I don't even know why I'm even here. This is bull. This is bull. This is him standing up and yelling, and the judge had to call for a recess so his lawyer could calm him down. I mean, Kay, if he would act like that in open court in front of a judge, what would he do when he is alone with Nikki?
Yeah, that outburst was pretty telling. And it wasn't, I mean, maybe the family pictures were triggering, but it was pretty telling because he had been keeping his composure pretty well throughout the hearings. So that outburst was definitely a surprise. And it was, like Chloe said, it was comparisons from the first search or raid compared to the one they went to about 9-10 months later. And she commented, the evidence technician commented on what a difference it was. The home was in disarray previously, and then when she came back, it was, like Chloe said, nice and tidy with family pictures all over the walls. And yeah, his outburst was asking what was wrong with having pictures of his family on the wall, and then what you had said.
You know, I'm very curious. Brian Fitzgibbons, I agree with you. I mean, you're the expert in missing people cases. But at this point, with so many people looking for Nikki, combined with all the blood found in that truck, she's dead.
Yeah, connect the dots here, right? We have a tremendous amount of forensic analysis that's been done on this vehicle, as testified by various members of law enforcement. That's undoubtedly what led Shasta County just about a couple months ago to make the pronouncement that they believe that this is now a murder case. So, I think that there's sufficient evidence here to say that.
Please join us on our mission to find missing people, especially children, to solve unsolved homicides. If you're on the go, catch us on your favorite podcast app where you can get all of our content where we, in our own way, seek justice. I want to talk about the DNA evidence. It's my understanding that, and Dave Mack, correct me if I'm wrong, that the sheet found in the bed of the truck covered in blood indicated, by looking at the sheet, that 3 of the 4 corners had been tied in a knot. I would argue, and Jeff Gentry to you, that the hitch people, McCain, got to help him get rid of the evidence. Each one took a corner of the sheet because DNA from 3 separate people are in each corner of the sheet where the knots have been tied. How does that work, Jeffrey?
That's exactly what you want to look at, is where is the DNA on these sheets and who was involved. So if you have a knot on every single corner, that would absolutely suggest that there were multiple people involved, that there were multiple people carrying this body. As I'd mentioned before, when you are carrying bodies, it's not easy. I've carried a ton of bodies before, and you grab a corner of the sheet and you transport them to where they need to go. And at that time, you're transferring DNA evidence to that sheet. Usually, of course, I'm wearing gloves at a scene, but these people most likely were not. And then if you're sweating and you're doing something active, there's more of a chance that you're going to transfer DNA to whatever you're touching.
Straight out to Chloe and Kay. Can either of you tell me about the testimony of Luis Baraja?
Yeah, Luis, he started his testimony. We only heard a little bit of it, but he had he had an ongoing relationship with Nikki. And it sounds like it went back as far as about a year or so before she went missing. And he, very, very calm, very, seems like a very nice gentleman. He said they had met at his place of work, which was at a cell phone store, and they become friends. He helped them with their cell phone service, and I think he noticed. I think he kind of noticed Nikki needed help, and I think he felt bad for her. And I think in that, with how calm his demeanor was, with how comforting he seemed, I could see how Nikki felt like this was someone she could turn to when she needed it.
There is also Justin Corin. What do we know about Justin's testimony?
I felt like he was very nervous. I feel like maybe he might have known more than he was letting on, but I definitely, I hope that he was being honest, but I feel like he wasn't being as honest as, because I feel like he does know more.
Justin Karen lived in a trailer on the property. That means he's got to have some connection with McCain. Also, they played a video of him talking to police. And in this video that was played in court, Karen says that he was asked by McCain a few days after Nikki goes missing to help disappear the Chevy Avalanche and whatever was inside of it. And they pointed out that Tyler McCain is letting him live on the property for free. Then he starts crying in the video when cops press him for information, saying his mom lived with him. He didn't have anywhere to go if something happened to him. I mean, that's what it sounds like. I don't know if that's true, but I'd like you to describe that. What happened?
It sounded like Mr. Karen is kind of in a dependent situation with Tyler. He lives on the property, and it does sound like he is pretty much living rent free. And he was kind of a right-hand man for Tyler. He helped around the house, on the property, fix cars, whatever Tyler needed. And it does sound like without Tyler's, I guess, graciousness to let him live there, he would essentially be homeless and have nowhere to park his trailer. And he did mention his mom is not doing well, and his mom is pretty dependent on him to, provide a place to live, and he does take care of him. So, it sounds like Mr. Karen, unfortunately, was just pushed in a corner. When you're dependent on someone, it's hard to say no when they need your help.
I understand that, but getting rid of a dead body is a whole nother can of worms. Okay, that's more than just helping a friend. That is obstruction of justice, tampering with the body, and could be a whole lot more. I'd be crying too. Let's go on to Felicia Nelson. That is the girlfriend, right?
Right. Mm-hmm. They're no longer together, but they were dating at the time.
What did she say? What was her testimony?
She did testify that on the night of May 17th into the early morning hours of the 18th, she did hear some movement in the back of the house and on the back porch, which is where the master bedroom exits. And that's also where Nikki had parked her car, closer to the back master bedroom door. She said during those hours she did hear some movement, and including a thud towards the back porch of the house in the rear of the truck. That to me sounded like the bed area of the truck.
Now I want to clarify, Felicia Nelson is Justin Karen's girlfriend, not Tyler McCain's girlfriend. And
Correct.
She also testified she was in the trailer, and Justin Karen's trailer, and it was not parked very far from the McCain home at all, and she heard noises coming from where the avalanche was parked. She later described a thud heard in the early morning hours, May 18. May 18 is the day Nikki goes missing, so that's very critical. Was Tyler McCain's defense attorney cross-examining all the witnesses?
Yes, he was.
Yes.
And how did that pan out?
I feel like he was strategic. He did try to poke holes in some of their testimony um, or and I don't know the correct terminology, but almost sometimes, someone said it was 10 minutes. He might say, do you mean 15 minutes? Because you had said 15 minutes before. Things like that to kind of confuse the person and make them feel, like maybe they didn't remember correctly. But yeah, it was pretty crafty as far as, the cross and clarifying specific things that they had testified to.
Now, another point of Justin Kieran's testimony that I found really interesting is that he stated he found Nikki's driver's license and credit cards on Tyler McCain's back porch, and that he gave them to Tyler McCain. And at the time he gave them to Tyler McCain, they were not burned or destroyed in any way. They were then later, the driver's license was later found burned in Tyler McCain's wallet. Isn't that true?
Yes.
Yes.
What can you tell me about items found in Tyler McCain's mother's home?
There was a white comforter in their detached garage that had a lot of burn marks on it. And then there was also a darker colored sweater that also appeared to be burned as well.
Did either of you recognize the sweater? Did it belong to Nikki?
It was hard to tell because it was in a pile. It looked denim-like to me, but it could have just been, the thread material. But I did not specifically recognize the sweater. But Nikki had a lot of clothes, so I wouldn't recognize every piece that she had anyway.
And there was also a note that was found too.
Tell me about the note.
Okay, do you have it written down?
It was in a bin. It was in a bin that was in Jeanette's garage. It was on a pink Post-it note. And the odd thing is, throughout the search, they had found numerous just notes lying around Nikki and Tyler's home. And this note happened to be in Jeanette's garage. And it read, remember that feeling when you could be Jesus for a day on drugs?
Who wrote that?
It looked like it could have been Tyler's handwriting. But they didn't say.
Specify.
How did you guys endure the testimony about the discovery of the truck and what was found in the truck bed?
That was probably, one of the toughest things for me. I just remember I had my fiance sitting next to me. I just remember like clutching onto his hand because it was just a lot.
The deputy stated under oath there was a strong odor, the smell of decomposition, decomposing flesh coming from the truck bed. There was a swarm of flies and gnats. Also a white sheet with blood stains and dark colored hair. And Nikki had beautiful, long, dark hair. There are smears of dried blood in the truck bed. And there is dark hair found under a piece on the trim on the outside of the truck. It has been definitively proven that the blood and the hair belong to your sister, Nikki. And my final question to you, Kay Ford, when you hear this technical evidence about blood and hair and a comparison, lab comparison proving that it's Nikki's, do you let your mind go to how that blood got there and how her hair ended up in the trim of the truck?
So it's like I said, it's just grisly to think that that's what happened to her. to even kind of imagine. It's difficult.
Specifically about Luis Philip Dubé, the witness. Now he's saying he had a romantic relationship with Nikki Cheng. I guess he is saying that now, that his DNA is on the sheet, right? He's saying that is from an earlier romantic encounter. But does he not understand? The crime lab can determine sweat versus touch DNA versus sperm, right? So if his DNA is over in one of those knots tied, he's going to be proven to be a liar, Dubé.
Exactly. And that points immediately to third-party culpability. And in California, in order to get that defense, you have to have more than just motive, means, and opportunity for someone else to have committed the crime. There has to be some other independent evidence linking that third party to the crime. And here, if you have biological evidence at the scene where the death purportedly occurred, that is enough to get that third party culpability instruction. And particularly at a preliminary hearing, that is enough to show the court that the death was at the hands of somebody other than the defendant. The other problem I think the case has, so far we're not hearing that there was an unsurvivable loss of blood.
I find this really hard to believe, Dr. Bethany Marshall. Now that Nikki Cheng is gone, now suddenly we're hearing about a sex affair. Is that just to conveniently explain away why his DNA is on the sheet used to transport her dead body?
Nancy, abuse victims do not have affairs. They're terrified to even smile at somebody in public if the abuser is looking at them. The abuser questions, where did you have lunch? Did you talk to somebody? What did you say about them? Abusers are pathologically jealous. So no, I have a hard time believing that she would have risked her life by having an affair.
I'm the husband of Nikki. First of all, I would like to thank the Sheriff's Office, FBI, for getting involved. Any efforts that might help bring my wife home safely. We miss you.
Ripley says it wouldn't start. McCain put diesel in the gas-powered truck, and it had rolled down a gradual slope. Ripley says Justin Karen asked McCain if there was anything in the truck that needed to disappear, and did the truck need to disappear. Both times, McCain answered yes. The defense asked Ripley if he was offered amnesty for his testimony. Ripley said he didn't need it because he hadn't done anything wrong. Ripley says he met with his nephew later that evening at his trailer on McCain's property and told him he wanted nothing to do with whatever was going on. He didn't know until the next day the avalanche was reported missing until he saw it on the news the next day.
Philip Dubé, defense attorney, how can the defense possibly fight back against Ripley's testimony? Ripley says he asked the husband, McCain, is there anything in the truck we need to get rid of? And McCain says, yes. And he says, do we need to get rid of the truck? And McCain says, yes. What do you do with that? That's just like somebody dropped a bomb in your lap.
Well, that presupposes that you believe the witness. In order for that to have any merit or any weight, you have to find that the testimony is credible. And what do we know? That you had other people who were intimate with her. And I find it astonishing to suggest that it could have only been Mr. McCain. Normally, if there were past relations, you launder the linens. But the fact that there is fresh DNA from other people on that sheet, I don't care what anybody says when they're on the stand. The forensics are the best eyewitness.
Dubé, the DNA is in the corners of the edges of the sheet. They're clearly, Dave Mack, where the sheet has been knotted to help carry Nikki's body. Explain the DNA found on the sheets, Dave Mack.
Nancy, when they got that sheet out and they were examining each of those corners, as you mentioned, there are 3 knots in this sheet. In the corners, they've got separate DNA profiles from different individuals in those knots. They're not all the same. So you've got 3 different people leaving their DNA on the knots that are tied in the sheet that also has Nikki Saley McCain's blood and hair. So, and of course, we've got her husband, his is all over it. And then we've got the other gentleman mentioned. So it's the knots that were tied by these individuals in the sheet. By the way, it was found in the back of her truck that was sitting on the side of the road with a cover over the truck bed.
Okay, Jeffrey Gentry, blood spatter analyst, you would have a field day with that. And did you hear Dubé trying to tune up and state that there wasn't enough blood to prove she's dead?
One, there shouldn't be blood in the back of a truck bed. There shouldn't be blood all over a sheet. And then there definitely should not be enough blood in body fluids that leak out of a truck. That is very concerning. And if you're going to suggest that a person is not dead after finding all of that, you're absolutely wrong.
Question to you, Brian Fitzgibbons. The sisters have been through hell sitting through this preliminary hearing. Isn't it true, Brian, that family members want desperately to believe their loved one is out there and they can and will be found? How do you break that to someone that they're never going to be found?
Yeah, there's no easy way to begin that conversation when this forensic evidence and the witness statements, but by the way, lead us to believe that their loved one is indeed deceased. And, this has got to be just a horrific experience through this preliminary hearing for Nikki's family to sit through listening to all this evidence brought before them.
Chloe, I don't know how you guys are enduring it. I only sat through a very short portion. When I testified at my fiance's murder trial, I didn't hear the rest. I don't know how you're doing it. How are you sitting there listening to testimony about Nikki's hair and blood?
It's definitely difficult. I just remember I have to do this, I have to say this because I have to be strong for Nikki's kids because I want to know what happened and I want to know what they did to her.
Joining me, Kay Ford and Chloe Saley. As difficult, as horrible as it is for them, they are enduring gut-wrenching and graphic testimony in court, and they are representing their sister, Nikki, and it ain't over yet. Nikki sisters, thank you for being with us. We wait as justice unfolds, and now we remember an American hero, Officer Hunter Simoncic, Kansas City PD, killed in the line of duty at age 26, leaving behind heartbroken parents Ron and Christine. American hero, we honor Officer Hunter Simoncic. Thank you to our guests, especially sisters Kay and Chloe, and to you for being with us tonight. Nancy Grace signing off. I'll see you tomorrow night. And until then, good night, friend. Please join us on our mission to find missing people, especially children, to solve unsolved homicides. If you're on the go, catch us on your favorite podcast app where you can get all of our content where we, in our own way, seek justice.